Hey guys, welcome back. We're here to give you some more layoff news. The reason that we do this is to give you an update on companies that might not be hiring anymore. So if you have an application in with these companies or you're looking to apply, do note that you might not be getting a response back, or if you do get rejected, it might not be your fault. So let's go ahead and look into this one. So we can see here, we're on the businessinsider.com. We'll put a link to this article down below, so if you want to go ahead and read that, you can do that. But as you guys know, Twitter and Disney are the latest to slash thousands of jobs amid a wave of layoffs. So let's go over the full list of major U.S. companies making cuts in 2023. And that's the other thing, too, guys, to consider, as well as you only see the big companies in the news. You don't see the layoffs coming from mid-sized and small companies. So it might not be a bad idea to search that as well if you're out there applying to jobs. Okay, so wave of layoffs that hit dozens of companies. Last week, Twitter cut about 200 employees, or 10% of the social media company's remaining workforce. This is the second round of layoffs at Twitter in less than 4 months after Elon Musk slashed the headcount by 50% after buying the company for $44 billion in November. So Twitter, it looks like they're definitely cutting back quite a bit. They're joining a large group of major corporations, though. Tech companies like Google, Microsoft, finance behemoths like Goldman Sachs announced massive layoffs in the first weeks of 2023. So definitely note, guys, the tech companies are taking a beating lately. So if you're looking to apply to any of those companies, still go for it. I mean, a lot of people might be avoiding the open positions because of the layoffs, so you could get an advantage there. But definitely note that it looks like a lot of them are cutting back. Okay, the downsizing followed significant reductions at companies including Meta and Salesforce last year. And we did covered a couple weeks back, guys, Amazon and I think it was Facebook that had massive layoffs, like 20,000 plus. So some of these have been massive layoffs. Okay, the wave of layoffs has recently expanded beyond tech and into economic bellwethers as well. The industrial company 3M. 3M is a massive company, guys. And a material company, Dow, recently announced cuts as well. So let's go into the notable examples so far in 2023. Citigroup has cut hundreds of jobs. This was just recently, guys. Citi plans to cut hundreds of jobs, with many focused on the company's investment bank division. The total headcount will reportedly amount to less than 1% of Citi's more than 240,000 workers and are part of Citi's normal course of activities. Citi's cuts were first reported by Bloomberg. In January, the CFO told investors the company remained focused on simplifying the organization, and Citi declined insiders' request to provide comment on the record. Just a personal insert here, guys. I think a lot of these companies probably hired quite a bit during COVID when they were growing, and now that things are returning a little bit back to normal, you're probably going to start seeing cuts at a decent amount of places, even ones that you might not expect. Okay, so let's move on. Waymo reported 209 roles so far. So Alphabet or Google. Alphabet is the mother company to Google, guys. Alphabet's self-driving car unit, Waymo, has reportedly laid off 209 employees this year in 2 rounds of cuts. Waymo laid off 137 employees on March 1st. The co-CEO reportedly told employees that 209 employees, approximately 8% of the company's staff, have been cut this year. If you don't know what Waymo is, guys, it's a self-driving venture out there. So they're pretty popular out in Arizona. You'll see self-driving cars. Typically, they're Jaguars, pretty nice cars. Waymo did confirm the cuts to Insider, but did not specify the number of roles impacted or the date the first round of cuts occurred. All right, the next one, Thoughtworks. 500 employees have been cut from Thoughtworks. This is a software consultancy firm. They laid off roughly about 500 employees, or 4% of its global workforce, according to TechCrunch. TechCrunch noted that the company did not dispute the figure. So that is not confirmed, but they did not dispute. So take that as you will. Okay, Thoughtworks initially informed the affected employees about the decision on February 28th. That same day, Thoughtworks reported that its revenue had increased by 8.3% between fourth quarter of 2022 and fourth quarter of 2021. The company also reported a more than 21% year-over-year revenue increase. Do note a couple things about layoffs, guys. A lot of articles will cover things like this, like that the revenue grew by 8.3%. But there could be some intricacies in these layoffs, right? So, for example, if a specific the company overall could have grown by 8.3%, but a specific business unit could have lost millions or tons of money, and that would be the positions that got cut off. So take that into account. Granted, though, a lot of companies will take this opportunity where everybody is laying people off to just lay more people off so that they don't get caught up as being like one of the only companies laying off. They take it as a chance to kind of cut costs while they're ahead. So do note that as well. In the company's earnings release, Thoughtworks CEO, I won't even try to pronounce that, they are pleased with the performance in the fourth quarter, and the clients continue to look to them to help navigate these uncertain times and tackle the biggest technology issues. GM, General Motors, reported 500 salary jobs will be cut, so definitely the white-collar layoffs are coming, guys. General Motors, they're going to cut 500 executive-level salary positions. The layoffs come only 1 month after CEO Mary Barra told investors and reporters on the company's earnings calls, "I do want to be clear that we're not planning layoffs." So, they'll always say this, guys, and it might be true that they were not planning layoffs, but most of the time, if you're cutting that many executives and within a month, you're probably planning it. Okay, so employees who are getting laid off were informed on the February 28th, so pretty much just a week ago from when we're posting this video. Twitter cut about 200 employees. We'll skip past this one, guys, and we just pretty much covered that one. Yahoo, 20% of employees. I didn't even know Yahoo was still bouncing around, so that's good. I guess shout out to them for still existing. Yahoo announced it will eliminate 20% of its staff, or more than 1,600 people, as a part of an effort to restructure the company's advertising technology arm. So the CEO told Axios that the cuts are part of a strategic overhaul of its advertising unit and will be tremendously beneficial for the profitability of Yahoo overall. Okay, Disney cut 7,000 jobs. I'm sure that you've seen Disney in the news lately. They have been getting beat over the head lately. As far as things go, everything they put out seems to be a failure. But fresh off his return, Disney CEO Bob Iger announced February 8th that Disney will slash 7,000 jobs as the company looks to reduce costs. So Iger returned to the position back in November 2022, replaced successor Bob Chapek, who pretty much ran things into the ground there. They told investors the cuts are part of an effort to help save $5.5 billion. Okay, so as far as things go, DocuSign is a really popular, if you're not familiar, is a really probably the most popular contract software out there. So if you ever work on sales, maybe even customer service or things like that, this is typically the technology or software that's going to be used to send out agreements or contracts. They're going to slash 10% of their employees as a part of restructuring, designed to support the company's growth, scale, and profitability objectives. Okay. Affirm is going to cut 19% of its workforce. That's a big one. So Affirm announced on February 8th it plans to slash 19% of its workforce. Affirm co-founder and CEO Mark Levchin said in a call with investors, it has taken appropriate action in many areas of the business to navigate the economic headwinds. They believe that's the right decision. They hired a larger team that we can sustainably support in today's economic reality, but they're truly sorry to see many of the talented colleagues depart. Okay, GoDaddy is going to cut 8% of the workers. That's going to be, let's see if they give us an official number, 8% of its global workforce. That's going to be a pretty hefty number. I don't know how many employees GoDaddy has or what that would equate to. Somebody can leave in the comments, let us know. How much would 8% of GoDaddy's staff be? I bet it might go into the thousands, maybe hundreds. Zoom, 15% of the staff is going to be cut. I don't know about you guys, but this one doesn't really shock me very much. This was a COVID business, right? They skyrocketed during COVID, and now everything's going back to normal. People are going hybrid. People are going back into the office. I don't think this one is really a shock to anyone. And also, maybe I'm wrong. I never really understood why Zoom was so popular over other things. There were a bunch of other video software out there that you could use just the same way. So, I don't know. Just a personal take. eBay is going to cut 500 jobs, or about 4% of its workforce. That it's the CEO said that they are today's actions are designed to strengthen their ability. You pretty much see guys, every CEO saying pretty much the same thing, so we're not going to read those anymore. Dell is going to cut 5% of its workforce. Pinterest is going to cut about 150 jobs, less than 5% of its workforce on February 1st. Again, same thing. They're making organizational changes to deliver on company priorities in the long-term strategy. Okay, Rivian, 6% of the jobs. Rivian has been getting beat over the head too. They took a lot of losses recently. So we'll see if they turn that around. But the company is going to cut about 6% of its workforce as well. BDG Media, they are going to cut roughly about 8% of the staff. Splunk is going to cut 325 jobs. Haven't heard of that, but it sounds like that's quite a decent amount of jobs. So 4% of its staff and scale back. And Intel is going to be cutting 343 jobs. Intel notified California officials per the WARN Act requirements it plans to lay off 343 workers from its Folsom campus, local outlets, on January 30th. And the CEO, okay, so this is the first CEO that we see that will actually take a pay cut, 25%. And other members of the executive teams will take salary reductions and amounts ranging from 5 to 15%. So that's the first company that we saw kind of taking action from the top, which is kind of nice to see. FedEx is going to cut more than 10% of the top managers. We can see here that's quite a. I bet that's going to amount to quite a few people. All right, so since June 2022, the company reduced its workforce by more than 12,000 staffers throughout headcount management initiatives. Again, guys, this was another company that probably skyrocketed during COVID, right? People couldn't leave, they had to order stuff, and who was going to deliver it? FedEx. Now we're going back to normal. People probably are not ordering as much, and then you cut the staff. Okay, PayPal is cutting 7% of its workforce. This is a long list, guys. Okay, so 7% amounts to about 2,000 workers, approximately 7%. HubSpot is going to cut about 7% of its staff. IBM, 1.5% of its staff, or roughly 3,900 workers. So it doesn't sound like a big percentage, but that's quite a few people. IBM is a pretty big company. Hasbro is going to cut 15% of its workers. I guess the board games are not selling anymore. That's going to be about 1,000 workers. Warning that the 2022 holiday season was weaker than expected. And the company said the layoffs comes as it seeks to save between $250 million to $300 million per year by the end of 2025. Dow is going to cut 2,000 global employees. That is a massive number too. Gosh, SAP is going to cut up to 3,000 positions as well. So that's another big one. That's 2.5% of the company's workforce are part of the cost-cutting initiative that should save them about $382 million. Spotify, 6% of the workforce. So what's happening, guys, too, is as far as investors go, a lot of the investors that kind of determine the stocks and whatnot, they're really heavily focused on companies turning a profit now, where pre-COVID they were really just focused on revenue. Now they're more so focused on profit. And so almost every headline you see here is focused on saving, right? Even the big companies, they're focused on saving money because that's going to turn directly into profit. So that's why you're starting to see a lot of these companies put specific wording in their notifications as well. Spotify cut 6% of the workforce. That's going to be at about 600 people. 3M, like we just covered up there. 3M is a huge company, guys. So 2,500 job cuts probably won't be too much considered percentage-wise. But this is also going to say that they're going to be saving money, guaranteed. Google is going to cut around 12,000 employees, or 6% of its global workforce. Vox is going to cut 7% of its staff. Capital One is going to cut more than 1,100 tech workers on January 18th, they announced. So that was a little while ago. And you're starting to see, guys, that the tech companies are getting beat down, don't get me wrong. But a lot of these other companies, I think, are going to start making some cuts too. WeWork, about 300 employees are going to be cut. It's planned to exit 40 locations in the U.S. as part of a larger cost-cutting effort. Wayfair is going to cut more than 1,000 employees. Again, this is probably a COVID company, so 5% cut. Microsoft is going to cut 10,000 workers. I guess with ChatGPT, they can kind of automate everything there, right? So they're going to invest $10 billion into OpenAI, which created the AI chatbot ChatGPT. On February 13th, the company laid off staff, which it acquired in 2016. According to they laid off staff on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn probably took a big hit. Crypto.com, 20% of its staff. BlackRock is going to cut up to 3% of its global workforce. which is about 500 roles. Goldman Sachs is going to cut 6.5% of its global workforce. BNY Mellon is going to cut 1,500 jobs, 3% of its workforce. So finance is getting beat up pretty bad here too, guys. Verily, which is a Google company, I guess. Alphabet company, but you'll know Google is a big one. Reportedly, 15% of the workers are being cut. That's crazy. I never heard of that. DirecTV, 10% of the management staff here is also getting cut. Coinbase, 950 workers are going to be cut. That's probably going to be, 20% of its staff. Amazon, 18,000 employees. We actually covered this one a little bit more in depth, so if you want to see that, you go click this video in the top right-hand corner here, or we will also leave a link in the comment section below too. But this was a big one. At first, they tried to tell us they weren't going to cut many employees, and then you turn around, they cut 20,000 people. And one of the things that Amazon is actually having trouble with too, guys, is that they burnt through so many employees at their warehouse locations that they are now having trouble hiring people to actually come work there. So pretty interesting. We'll see what happens to Amazon, but they might have burnt a few too many bridges. All right, Salesforce is going to cut 10% of its staff. I think we just covered that at the top, which is 7,000 employees, though. Everlane is going to cut 17% of corporate employees, which is going to be 17% or 175-person corporate workforce, and also 3% of its retail staff. Vimeo is going to cut 11% of its workforce. Let's see if they give us a number. They do not. Okay. Compass is going to lay off people, but they're not immediately disclosed. I bet that's going to be a massive one. Real estate might be the next one coming up, guys, with as far as these layoffs go. Stich Fix, 20% of salary jobs are going to be cut as well. And that's going to do it. Wow. I thought it was going to just keep going, guys, but that's insane. So we can see here, it seems like tech was the big one, but we can see here too, finance, real estate, and a few others. They seem to be trending a little bit too. So let's see how this shakes out. If you are somebody that's looking for a job, we do run an online job board for hybrid and remote jobs globally. So feel free to check out remoteprofessionalnetwork.com. We have a bunch of new jobs that we just covered today as well. So you can go ahead and check out this next video to see what happened to Amazon.